Last month, my sister tore into me in front of our parents, and they agreed said I'd ruined their lives. I left without a fight, without a word. This morning, I woke up to 14 missed calls. Now they're desperate for me to come back. But the only question that matters is why. Now my name is Rachel Harland, and I'm 34 years old. For the past 6 years, I've built a quiet life as an independent college admissions consultant, helping anxious teenagers craft essays that capture who they really are. It's work that matters to me, taking kids who've been told they're not special enough and showing them how to make their stories shine. That November evening started like any other at my parents' house in Madison's West Side. I'd come for what we loosely called Sunday dinner, though it had become more of a command performance than a family gathering. The house smelled of Mom's pot roast, but the warmth ended there. I was in the kitchen, washing dishes my usual role when I heard the commotion from the living room. Lydia's voice, pitched high with excitement, carried through the walls. Oh my God, we did it, 100,000 followers. I dried my hands slowly, recognizing the sound of another live stream celebration. My sister had turned her life into content, and our parents had become her most devoted audience. Through the doorway, I could see them huddled around her phone, Dad adjusting his reading glasses, Mom clutching his arm. Show them the cake. Mom, show them, Lydia commanded, and Mom scurried to the dining room, returning with a sheet cake decorated with 100K in pink frosting. I needed to get my jacket from the living room closet. There was no other route. I tried to slip past quietly, keeping to the wall, but the old floorboard near the TV stand betrayed me with its familiar creak. Lydia's head snapped up. For a moment, her live stream smile faltered. "And that," she said, her voice dripping with practiced disappointment, "is my sister, everyone. Perfect timing as always." I froze, my hand on the closet door. On her phone screen, I could see the comments flooding in question marks, laughing emojis, people asking what she meant. You know what, let's keep it real for a second." Lydia turned the camera toward me. "This is Rachel, the family ghost. Shows up, ruins the vibe, leaves, every single time." Lydia. Dad started, but she was already in performance mode. "No, Dad, I'm tired of pretending. You guys act like it's fine, but we all know she makes everything weird. Like, we're here celebrating something amazing, and she walks through like..." Lydia made a face, mimicking someone sucking the joy out of a room. Mom set the cake down carefully on the coffee table. When she looked at me, her expression was tired. So tired. "She's not wrong. Rachel, you do this. You've always done this." The words hit me in the chest. "Done what?" "Made everything about how you don't fit in, how you're so different from us." Mom's voice grew stronger, finding momentum. "Do you know how exhausting it is watching you judge us, making us feel like we're not intellectual enough, not good enough?" "I've never..." "You ruined our lives." The words came out flat, matter of fact. "Douglas, tell her." Dad removed his glasses, cleaned them, his nervous habit. "Your mother's right. The tension you bring. It's been destroying this family for years." Lydia had turned the camera back to herself, narrating in a stage whisper. "And this is why I don't talk about my sister online. You guys. This energy right here." I stood there, my hand still on the closet door, watching my family perform their parts in this scene. Mom, finally unburdened by saying what she'd apparently been thinking. Dad, hiding behind his glasses. And Lydia, turning our family's fracture into content. I pulled my jacket from the hanger, put it on slowly, deliberately, walked to the hallway where my work bag sat by the door. They watched me, waiting for the fight, the tears, the drama that would prove their point. Instead, I picked up my bag, checked that I had my laptop and chargers, my client files, everything that mattered. Where are you going?" Mom asked, but her tone suggested she didn't really care about the answer. I looked at them one last time, my family, framed perfectly in the living room like a promotional photo for Lydia's brand. The cake sat untouched between them, already starting to slide in the warm room. I walked out the front door and closed it quietly behind me. No slam, no dramatic exit, just the soft click of a lock finding its place. In my car, I sat for a moment in the darkness of their driveway. Through the window, I could see Lydia's animated gestures as she continued her live stream, my absence already woven into whatever narrative she was spinning. I turned the key and drove away from the house where I'd learned to make myself small, where I'd washed dishes while they celebrated, where I'd finally been told the truth they'd been thinking all along. I ruined their lives by existing, by being myself. Fine. Let's see how they do without me. The Sunset Motel squatted on the edge of Madison's old industrial district, its neon sign missing half its letters. I'd found it on my phone while parked at a gas station, scrolling through options that wouldn't require a credit card deposit I couldn't afford. $49 a night. Cash accepted. No questions asked. The room smelled like decades of cigarettes and industrial cleaner fighting a losing battle. Orange curtains blocked most of the streetlight, casting everything in a sickly amber glow. I set my bag on the single chair, brown vinyl held together with duct tape, and sat on the bed. The springs creaked a symphony of age and overuse. I pulled out my laptop and opened my banking app. $273 in checking, another $42 in savings. 3 credit cards maxed from helping Dad during his unemployment 2 years ago, help they'd forgotten the moment Lydia's influencer income started flowing. The fluorescent bathroom light flickered as I splashed cold water on my face. In the mirror, I looked exactly like what I was, a 34-year-old woman starting over with nothing but a laptop and the knowledge that her family was relieved she was gone. I spent the next 3 hours rebuilding my professional life. First, reactivating my profiles on tutoring platforms I'd abandoned when my private practice took off. Then, lowering my rates to competitive levels, $50 an hour instead of $150. It hurt, but I needed income fast. By 2 in the morning, I'd applied to 16 online tutoring positions, updated my LinkedIn, and created new profiles on 3 freelance education sites. My eyes burned from the laptop screen, but I kept working. Motion was easier than stillness. Stillness meant thinking about Mom's tired voice, Dad cleaning his glasses, Lydia turning our family's implosion into content for strangers. Around 3:30, exhaustion finally won. I closed the laptop and lay back on the thin motel pillow. That's when she came to me, Grandma Helen. Not literally, of course, but in that strange, half-asleep space, I could hear her voice as clearly as if she were sitting in the vinyl chair. Rachel, honey, you're trying to fit yourself into spaces too small for your spirit. She'd said that to me once during my last visit before she died. We'd been sitting in her garden, watching the sunset paint her roses gold. I'd just told her about another family dinner where I'd felt invisible, where Lydia's latest achievement had dominated every conversation. Some plants? She'd continued, her hands still dirty from gardening. Need different soil than their neighbors. Doesn't make them wrong. Just means they need to find where they can bloom. I'd thought it was just grandmother wisdom then, the kind of gentle encouragement she always offered. But lying in that motel room, her words felt like prophecy. She'd left me something in her will. I remembered the lawyer mentioning it at the reading, remembered Mom waving it off. Just some of her teaching materials, she'd said. Nothing valuable? We'll handle it. But Grandma Helen had been a pioneering educator, developing innovative methods for helping struggling students. She'd written guides, created systems, built a philosophy of education that had influenced hundreds of teachers, and she'd wanted me to have it all. You have the teacher's heart, she'd told me that same evening. Like me, it skips generations sometimes. I opened my eyes in the darkness. The orange light through the curtains painted shadows on the water-stained ceiling. Somewhere in the next room, someone was watching TV, the muffled voices bleeding through the thin walls. My phone buzzed. A notification from one of the tutoring platforms someone in Singapore needed help with college essays, willing to pay for a session tomorrow. Then another buzz. A parent in California looking for ongoing SAT prep support. I accepted both. Then 3 more that came in over the next hour. By the time weak sunlight began filtering through the curtains, I had a week's worth of sessions booked. Not enough to rebuild my life, but enough to keep this room for another week. I thought about Grandma Helen's house sold now, the garden probably paved over for easier maintenance. But her words lived on, carved into my memory like initials in tree bark. Find where you can bloom. I sat up, muscles stiff from the thin mattress, and opened my laptop again. Somewhere in this city was an apartment I could afford, a life I could build without shrinking myself to fit, without washing dishes while others celebrated, without apologizing for taking up space. The motel room was ugly and small and smelled like failure, but for the first time in years, I could breathe without measuring the sound. I could exist without apology. I typed out a new bio for my tutoring profiles. Rachel Harland helping students find their authentic voice and tell their unique story. Grandma Helen would have liked that. 3 weeks into my motel existence, I'd developed a routine. Morning sessions with international students, afternoon college prep, evenings updating my materials. I was surviving, even starting to save for a security deposit. Then Lydia posted the family Thanksgiving photos. I saw them while waiting for a student to log on. The notification popped up. One of my cousins had tagged me in a comment. "Where's Rachel?" I shouldn't have looked, but I did. There they were, gathered around the dining room table I'd helped refinish 5 years ago. Mom's turkey, Dad's famous stuffing, Lydia positioned perfectly in the center. The caption read, "So grateful for family, the people who truly show up for each other. Blessed Wander family, first, authentic love." But it was the second photo that stopped me cold. The same shot, but clearly edited. The space where I'd sat every Thanksgiving had been digitally smoothed over. The chair removed, the gap closed, like I'd never existed at all. My hands shook as I scrolled through her recent posts. Halloween, a family costume photo with my purple witch hat photoshopped out. Labor Day barbecue, my plate and cup erased from the picnic table. Mom's birthday dinner, 5 place settings edited down to 4. "Miss Harland, are you there?" My student's voice pulled me back. "Yes, sorry, connection issue. Let's look at your essay." But I couldn't focus. Between explaining paragraph transitions, I kept thinking about those photos, the deliberate erasure, the effort it must have taken to remove me from each scene. That evening, Maya Torres appeared at my motel door like a ghost from my past life. "Jesus, Rachel, this is where you've been." She held a pizza box and a bottle of wine, looking at the stained carpet with barely concealed horror. Maya had been my study partner in grad school, the only person from Madison I'd kept in touch with. She worked at the university library now, had access to archives, records, the kind of institutional memory everyone else forgot. "I brought you something," she said after we'd demolished half the pizza. She pulled out a manila envelope. "Found these while reorganizing the education department archives. Thought you should see them." Inside were photocopies of workshop evaluations from 20 years ago. Grandma Helen's name appeared on every page. Innovative approaches to student essay development. The portfolio method for college admissions. Authentic voice in academic writing. "Maya, these are the exact frameworks your sister's been selling as her revolutionary admissions academy." Maya's voice was flat. "I started noticing after you disappeared. The terminology, the methods, even the worksheet designs. It's all Helen's work." I spread the papers across the bed. There it was, my grandmother's intellectual legacy, repackaged with Lydia's face and Instagram aesthetic. "There's more," Maya said quietly. She handed me another envelope. "Remember how your mom said Helen only left you some old teaching materials?" The document inside was a copy of the codicil to Helen's will. Legal language swam before my eyes, but key phrases jumped out: all educational materials, published and unpublished. full copyright and intellectual property rights, including but not limited to methodologies, frameworks, and systems developed. To my granddaughter, Rachel Marie Harland. I asked my friend in legal to translate. Maya continued, basically, your grandmother left you everything, every teaching method she created, every framework she developed. It's all legally yours. I stared at the papers, but Mom said, your mom lied. Maya pulled out her phone, showed me Lydia's website. Look at this. Your sister's charging $3,000 for a course built entirely on your grandmother's work she left to you. The Revolutionary Admissions Academy sales page scrolled by. Video testimonials, success stories, promises of insider secrets passed down through generations. That last phrase made my stomach turn. And this, Maya swiped to another screen, is what made me start digging. It was my birthday card to Mom from last year, photographed and posted on a grief support forum. Found this cleaning out Mom's drawer. Lydia had written, sometimes they keep the most painful reminders. Toxic family tar healing journey. She's using your relationship with your mother as content, Maya said, painting you as some kind of family villain while literally stealing your inheritance. I picked up the will codicil again. At the bottom, in my grandmother's careful handwriting, was a note for Rachel. These methods were born from love and a desire to help every student find their voice. Use them to continue that mission. All my love, Grandma Helen. What are you going to do? Maya asked. I looked around the motel room, the water stains, the broken chair, the life I'd been building from scratch while my family profited from my erasure. I need a lawyer, I said. Maya smiled for the first time since she'd arrived. Already made you an appointment. Margot Ellis specializes in intellectual property. She's expecting your call tomorrow at 10. After Maya left, I sat with the documents spread before me. Everything made sense now. The sudden coldness after Grandma Helen died, Lydia's rapid pivot to education content, the way Mom had handled the estate, keeping me away from the paperwork. They hadn't just wanted me gone. They'd needed me gone. I opened my laptop and began documenting everything. Screenshots of Lydia's courses, comparing them line by line with Grandma Helen's materials, the edited photos showing the systematic erasure, the will, proving my legal claim. By sunrise, I had 40 pages of evidence. They thought they'd ruined my life by casting me out, but they'd actually set me free, free to reclaim what was mine, free to honor my grandmother's true legacy, free to show them what happened when you tried to erase someone who refused to disappear. The comparison spreadsheet filled my laptop screen like a damning ledger. Column A, Grandma Helen's original frameworks. Column B, Lydia's revolutionary content. The match rate was 94%. I'd spent the entire night conducting a forensic analysis of intellectual property theft. My sister hadn't just borrowed ideas, she'd lifted entire passages, changing only pronouns and adding emoji. Where Helen wrote, "The student's authentic voice emerges through careful self-reflection," Lydia had written, "Your authentic voice emerges through careful self-reflection." The scope of it made my hands shake. Workshop modules sold for $500 each, private coaching at $1,000 per month, the Platinum Academy at $10,000 for 6 months, all built on the bones of my grandmother's life work. I cross-referenced dates. Lydia had launched her education platform 6 weeks after Grandma Helen's funeral. The timing wasn't coincidence, it was calculation. My phone buzzed, a text from a number I didn't recognize. "Saw your sister's course? Isn't this exactly what Mrs. Harland used to teach former Jefferson High student?" I stared at the message. Then another came. "My mom took Helen Harland's workshop in 2008. Still has the handouts. They're word for word what Lydia's selling." The dam broke. Messages flooded in from former students, teachers, parents who'd known my grandmother. Maya must have started asking questions. And in a small city like Madison, educational circles talked. I opened Lydia's Instagram, scrolling through months of posts. There a photo of her home office, strategically styled. But in the corner, barely visible, sat a box I recognized. Grandma Helen's original teaching files, the ones Mom said had been disposed of properly. I zoomed in, took a screenshot. The label was partially visible, H, Harland Master Copies. The smoking gun, sitting in plain sight. My appointment with Margot Ellis was at 10. I arrived at 9:45, carrying 2 binders of evidence and my laptop. The law office occupied the top floor of a converted Victorian, all exposed brick and modern furniture. Margot herself was 60-something with silver hair and eyes that missed nothing. "Maya Torres spoke highly of you," she said, gesturing to a chair. "Said you've been wronged in a particularly cruel way." I laid out everything: the will codicil, the comparison documents, the screenshots of Lydia's courses, the edited family photos showing the systematic erasure. Margot took notes on a yellow legal pad, occasionally asking for clarification. "The copyright violation is clear-cut," she said finally. "Your grandmother's will explicitly transferred all intellectual property rights to you. Your sister has no legal claim to use this material, let alone profit from it." "Well, what about the fact that my mother hid the will codicil?" "Fraud, potentially. Breach of fiduciary duty. Certainly. As executor, she had a legal obligation to distribute assets according to the will." Margot tapped her pen. "The question is, what outcome do you want?" I thought about it. I want my grandmother's legacy protected. I want the theft to stop. And I want acknowledgement of what they did. "We can pursue cease and desist, damages for copyright infringement, and disgorgement of profits." She pulled out a calculator. "Based on these course prices and enrollment numbers, your sister has likely generated over $300,000 using your intellectual property." The number hit me like a physical blow. 300,000, while I'd been sleeping in a motel, stretching $20 for groceries. "There's something else," Margot said carefully. "Given the public nature of your sister's business, this could attract media attention. Education plagiarism, family fraud. It's the kind of story that spreads. Are you prepared for that?" I thought about Lydia's live stream, her 100,000 followers, the way she'd turned our family's cruelty into content. She's been telling stories about me for months. Maybe it's time for the truth. Margot smiled. "I'll draft the cease and desist today. But first, I need you to do something. Document everything on your own platforms. Create a paper trail showing you're the rightful heir to these methods. Start using them yourself, publicly, with attribution to your grandmother." That afternoon, I created a simple website, the Helen Harland Method: Authentic Approaches to Student Development. I uploaded scanned copies of my grandmother's original workshops, clearly watermarked with copyright notices. I wrote a blog post about her legacy, her innovative spirit, how she'd developed these methods over 30 years of helping struggling students find their voices. Then I scheduled a free webinar for the following week, honoring Helen Harland Free Introduction to Ethical College Admissions Counseling. Within hours, registrations poured in. Former students sharing memories of my grandmother. Parents who'd been considering Lydia's expensive courses but felt something was off. Teachers who'd noticed the suspicious similarities. My phone rang that evening. Mom. I let it go to voicemail. Then Dad. Then Lydia. Then numbers I didn't recognize, probably extended family, enlisted to make contact. 14 calls by the time I turned my phone off. But I wasn't ready to hear their voices. Not yet. Not until the cease and desist was delivered. Not until the truth was documented in legal filings and public records. I sat in my motel room. Grandma Helen's original papers spread across the bed. Her handwriting filled the margins notes about students she'd helped, ideas for reaching the unreachable, reminders that every child deserved someone who believed in their potential. "Use them to continue that mission," she'd written. Tomorrow, Lydia would receive legal notice that her empire was built on stolen foundations. Tomorrow, the family that erased me would learn that some things couldn't be photoshopped away. But tonight, I prepared for my first webinar in Grandma Helen's name. Tonight, I began reclaiming not just intellectual property, but purpose. They'd stolen more than methods and frameworks. They'd stolen her memory, her legacy, her love. It was time to take it all back. The educational blog post appeared at 7:43 on Tuesday morning. Influencer exposed the dark side of Instagram's education gurus, read the headline on Teachers First, one of the most respected platforms in online education. I was halfway through my morning coffee when Maya texted me the link. My hands trembled as I read. Popular education influencer Lydia Harland, who has built a following of 100,000+ selling college admissions courses, may have constructed her empire on plagiarized content. Several educators have noted striking similarities between her revolutionary admissions academy and workshops conducted by the late Helen Harland, a pioneering Madison educator who passed away earlier this year. The article included side-by-side comparisons, screenshots from teachers who'd kept Helen's original handouts, testimonials from parents who'd attended both workshops decades apart and noticed the identical content. My phone exploded. The first call came at 8:05. Mom. I watched her name flash on the screen 14 times before she gave up. Then Dad. Rachel, this is serious. Call me back immediately. Then Lydia. Her voicemail shrill. I don't know what you think you're doing, but you need to fix this. Now! By noon, I had 47 missed calls. Family members I hadn't heard from in years suddenly needed to reach me urgently. The cousin who'd asked about me in the Thanksgiving photos sent a text. Holy shit, Rachel, is this true? I turned my phone to silent and focused on my scheduled student sessions. But between each one, I checked the blog post. The comments section had exploded. Teachers sharing their experiences with Helen, parents expressing outrage at the prices Lydia charged for stolen content, education professionals discussing the ethics of intellectual property in online courses. Then someone posted a link to my website. This is Helen Harland's actual granddaughter. She's offering the real methods for free. The traffic crashed my simple site within an hour. I upgraded the hosting, my hands steady despite everything. This was what Grandma Helen would have wanted her methods reaching teachers and students who needed them, not locked behind $1,000 paywalls. At 2:15, Lydia went live on Instagram. Maya watched and texted me updates. She's crying, says it's a coordinated attack, claims she developed everything herself. Oh wait, now she's saying you're jealous of her success. I didn't watch. Instead, I responded to emails from teachers requesting permission to use Helen's materials in their classrooms. Of course, I wrote to each one. Just please attribution to Helen Harland, and remember her philosophy, every student has a voice worth hearing. At 3:30, the calls started again, this time from reporters. Ms. Harland, Jessica Chen from the Wisconsin Education Journal. Can you comment on the allegations against your sister? I'm focusing on preserving my grandmother's legacy, I said carefully, remembering Margot's coaching. Her methods were meant to help students, not generate profit from desperation. More calls, blog posts multiplying, the hashtag #JoHelenHarlandMethod trending in education Twitter, screenshots of Lydia's courses being dissected by professional educators, finding more and more evidence of wholesale copying. At 5:20, Mom tried a different approach, a text this time. Rachel, you're destroying your sister. Is this what Helen would have wanted? This public humiliation, we need to handle this as a family. I stared at the message. Family. The word sat bitter on my tongue. Where was family when they photoshopped me out of existence? Where was family when they called me the ruin of their lives? Another text from Dad. Your sister is having a breakdown. Her sponsors are pulling out. You've made your point. Come home and we'll sort this out privately. Home, as if I had one anymore. Lydia's Instagram follower count was dropping in real time. Maya sent screenshots 98,000, 95,000, 90,000. The comments on her last post were brutal. Parents demanding refunds, teachers calling her a fraud, students saying they felt cheated. At 6:45, a new development. Someone had found Lydia's deleted tweets from 2 years ago. Old people methods are so outdated. My generation understands what students really need. Disrupt education, share new wave. The timestamp 2 weeks before Grandma Helen's funeral. The education community's response was swift and merciless. Blog posts about respecting educational pioneers. Threads about the ethics of repackaging proven methods as revolutionary. Discussions about how influencer culture commodified genuine teaching. My website traffic kept climbing. The webinar registration hit capacity 500 seats filled, with a waitlist growing. I added 2 more sessions. At 8:13, Lydia posted a statement, not an apology and attack. My estranged sister has launched a vicious campaign against me out of jealousy and spite. I have always credited my grandmother as an inspiration. The fact that I've modernized and improved upon outdated methods is called innovation. My students' success speaks for itself. The backlash was immediate. Teachers posting receipts Lydia had never once mentioned Helen in any course material. Students sharing screenshots of promises made, money paid, results not delivered. The education blog updated their article with Lydia's statement and a brutal fact check. By 9:30, 3 major sponsors had publicly withdrawn from partnerships with Lydia. The online course platform hosting her academy announced they were reviewing the situation. I sat in my motel room, watching my grandmother's legacy finally receive the recognition it deserved. But instead of satisfaction, I felt hollow. This wasn't about destroying Lydia. It was about truth, about honoring Helen, about preventing more families from spending thousands on stolen wisdom. My phone buzzed, a text from a number I recognized, Mrs. Patterson, my grandmother's best friend. Helen would be proud, sweetheart. She always said you were the one who understood. Don't let them guilt you into silence again. At 10:47, the calls stopped. The family had given up for the night. But I knew this was just the beginning. Tomorrow would bring lawyers, threats, negotiation attempts. Tomorrow they'd try to salvage what they could from the wreckage of their lie. But tonight, I opened my laptop and began preparing for the webinar. 500 teachers and parents waiting to learn the real Helen Harland method. 500 people who would carry her legacy forward the way she intended, with generosity, wisdom, and love. The motel room felt less like a prison now, more like a war room, a place where truth had finally found its voice. 14 missed calls, 0 regrets. The offer arrived through Margot Ellis at 9:15 on Thursday morning. She called me directly, her voice carefully neutral. Lydia's attorney just sent this over. You'll want to sit down. I was already sitting on the motel bed, but I gripped the phone tighter. How much? $650,000. The number hung in the air like a foreign language. I'd been surviving on instant noodles and gas station coffee, and they were offering more than $500,000. The terms I asked, already knowing. Complete removal of all content referencing the situation. Transfer of Helen's materials to Lydia with your written endorsement. A public statement that this was a misunderstanding and that you fully support your sister's business. Non-disclosure agreement preventing you from ever discussing this again. They want me to lie. They want you to disappear, Margot corrected, permanently this time. I stared at the water stain on the ceiling, the one shaped like a bird in flight. What do you recommend? As your attorney, it's a substantial sum. You could start over anywhere, build a comfortable life. She paused. As someone who's seen your grandmother's work and what they did with it, I'd tell them to go to hell. After I hung up, I sat with the silence. $650,000, enough to buy a house, start a proper business, never worry about motel rent again. All I had to do was sell the truth. I thought about Grandma Helen's students, the ones who'd found their voices through her methods, the parents who'd scraped together money for Lydia's courses, believing they were getting authentic wisdom, the teachers who'd been priced out of professional development by influencer capitalism. My laptop sat open on the desk, showing registration numbers for tomorrow's free webinar. Over 2,000 on the waitlist now. I opened a new document and began typing my response. Dear Ms. Harland and legal representatives, I have reviewed your offer of $650,000 in exchange for my silence, complicity, and erasure. I decline. The truth is not for sale. My grandmother's legacy is not a commodity to be traded. The teachers and families who deserve access to these methods will not be held hostage to your client's fraudulent business model. Rachel Harland. I sent it to Margot, then opened my session notes for tomorrow's webinar. If they wanted a war, they'd chosen the wrong opponent. I had nothing left to lose and everything to defend. Within an hour, the response came back. Not through lawyers this time, from Lydia directly, to my personal email. You're making a mistake. This offer won't stay open. When my reputation recovers, and it will, you'll still be nobody. Still be the family disappointment. At least with the money. You could pretend to matter. I read it twice, then archived it without responding. She still didn't understand. This wasn't about me mattering. It was about Helen's work mattering. About truth mattering. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number, but I recognized the writing style immediately. Mom. Your grandmother would be ashamed. She believed in family loyalty above all. You're spitting on her memory. I almost laughed. Helen had believed in many things: integrity, education, lifting up the struggling. Family loyalty had never trumped truth in her value system. Another text, this time from Dad. Take the money, Rachel. You've made your point. Don't be stupid. Then cousins, aunts, family friends, all suddenly concerned about my well-being, all urging me to be reasonable and think of the family. By evening, the tone shifted. The offers became threats. You know we have resources. Lydia texted at 7:43. The best lawyers, PR firms. We can make your life very difficult. More difficult than homeless, I typed back, then deleted it. They didn't deserve responses. At 8:30, something interesting happened. My website traffic spiked again, but this time from a different source. Someone had linked to it from a major education reform forum. The title, "This is what academic integrity looks like." Comments poured in, teachers sharing how they'd use Helen's methods, parents grateful for free resources, education reformers discussing the broader implications of influencer culture in teaching. Then, buried in the comments, a name I recognized, Dr. Patricia Winters, who'd run the state education board when Helen was alive. I worked with Helen Harland for 20 years. These methods transformed thousands of lives. Her granddaughter is honoring her legacy exactly as Helen would have wanted. The free webinars are a gift to our community. More recognized names appeared. Principals Helen had trained, teachers she'd mentored, students she'd helped who were now educators themselves. A grassroots movement forming around preserving authentic educational practices. At 10:20, Lydia made one last attempt, not through text or lawyers, but through Instagram. A tearful video, carefully lit. I want to address the pain in our family, she began. My sister and I have always had a complicated relationship. I've tried to include her, to help her, but sometimes people choose bitterness over healing. Maya texted me. She's trying to flip the narrative, making you the villain again. But the comments told a different story. Her remaining followers weren't buying it. Too many had seen the evidence. Too many had been burned by expensive courses that recycled free wisdom. Just give us Helen's actual methods. Your sister is doing what you should have done, honoring your grandmother. Refund, please. I want to attend the free webinars instead. I closed my laptop and looked around the motel room. Tomorrow, I'd run my first large-scale webinar. Next week, Margot would file our formal response to the cease and desist, including counterclaims for fraud and unjust enrichment. The settlement offer would expire at midnight. $650,000 would vanish like smoke. I pulled out the printed pages of Helen's original workshop notes, her handwriting in the margins. Remember, every student has a story worth telling. Our job is to help them find the words. At 11:59, I texted Margot, rejection stands, file everything tomorrow. At midnight exactly, my phone rang. Lydia. I let it ring. The money was gone, the family bridges burned, the comfortable lie rejected. But Helen's legacy lived on, free and accessible, exactly as she'd intended. Truth, it turned out, was priceless. The press release went live at 9 a.m. on Monday morning. Margot had crafted it with surgical precision facts only. No emotion, letting the evidence speak for itself. Legal notice, copyright infringement, and intellectual property theft in online education. Within minutes, education Twitter exploded. Major teaching blogs picked up the story. By 10:30, 3 national education publications had reached out for statements. But I wasn't watching the internet burn. I was in my new apartment, small, clean, affordable, preparing for the settlement conference. Margot had insisted on one last meeting before filing the formal lawsuit. "They're hemorrhaging money," she'd explained. "Lydia's course platform suspended her account. Refund requests are pouring in. They'll want to deal." The conference room at Margot's firm felt arctic. Lydia sat across from me for the first time since that November night. Designer clothes couldn't hide the stressed dark circles, trembling hands. The influencer sheen cracked and peeling. Mom and Dad flanked her like bodyguards. Mom wouldn't meet my eyes. Dad kept cleaning his glasses. Lydia's attorney spoke first. "Our client acknowledges certain oversights in attribution. We're prepared to offer a licensing agreement. 30% of past revenues, 15% going forward." "No," I said. "Rachel," Mom started. "No," I repeated. "Helen's methods will remain free. Forever. Non-negotiable." "You're being vindictive." Lydia's voice cracked. "I made those courses accessible. Modern. You made them expensive." I pulled out a folder. "Single mom in California saved for 6 months to afford your course. Teacher in Detroit used her tax refund. College student in Miami went into credit card debt. All for content that should have been free." I spread the emails across the table. Real people, real struggles, real money spent on stolen wisdom. "I'm prepared to drop the criminal fraud charges," I continued, "but only under these conditions: complete shutdown of all courses using Helen's materials, public acknowledgement of the source material, and this." I placed a single document in the center of the table. "A scholarship fund in Helen Harlan's name, funded by the proceeds from your courses, free education resources for underserved communities, managed by an independent board of educators." Lydia's lawyer whispered urgently in her ear. Mom gripped Dad's hand. The silence stretched until it hummed. "How much?" Lydia finally asked. "All of it. Every dollar earned from Helen's work goes to help students who need it." "That's over $300,000? $347,618. I'd done the math. Plus the $50,000 in your business account, plus the Tesla you bought last month." Lydia's face went white. "You can't?" "The alternative is criminal prosecution for fraud, civil suits for damages, and public trial of everything. Your choice." Margot placed the settlement documents on the table. 20 pages of legal language that boiled down to simple justice. Helen's work would be free. Those who'd profited would pay it forward. The truth would stand. At 11:47, Lydia signed. Mom finally looked at me as they prepared to leave. "Was it worth it destroying your family?" "You destroyed our family the night you said I ruined your lives. I just stopped pretending it wasn't already broken." They left without another word. That afternoon, I recorded a simple video. No fancy lighting, no script, just truth. "My name is Rachel Harland. My grandmother, Helen Harland, spent 40 years developing methods to help struggling students find their voices. Those methods were stolen, packaged, and sold for profit. Today, that changes." I announced the scholarship fund, the free resource library, the network of teachers who'd volunteered to carry Helen's work forward. No paywalls, no influencer packaging, just educators helping students the way Helen always had. The video went viral within hours, not because of drama or scandal, but because teachers shared it, parents shared it. Students who'd been helped by Helen's methods, now adults, shared their stories. By evening, the Scholarship Fund website had received over $10,000 in small donations, teachers volunteering, parents offering testimonials, a movement built on generosity rather than greed. I sat in my small apartment, watching the responses pour in. No family calling, no 14 missed messages, just the quiet satisfaction of honoring truth over blood. My phone buzzed once. A text from Mrs. Patterson. Helen just lit up heaven with that smile of hers. You did good, sweetheart. I looked at the framed photo on my desk, Helen in her garden, hands dirty, face bright with purpose. She'd planted seeds of knowledge for decades. Lydia had tried to harvest them for profit, but seeds scattered freely grow in unexpected places. The Helen Harland Educational Fund would help thousands of students. Her methods would reach corners of the country she'd never visited. Teachers would use her frameworks to change lives, asking nothing in return but the chance to pass it forward. I closed my laptop and made tea in my tiny kitchen. No luxury, no family fortune, no Instagram lifestyle. Just the knowledge that sometimes the greatest revenge isn't destruction, it's construction. Building something beautiful from the ashes of betrayal. They'd said I ruined their lives by existing. I'd proved them wrong by existing with purpose. Helen's legacy was safe. The truth had won. And somewhere in Madison, a family who'd chosen greed over love was learning the price of that choice. The 14 calls that started this story felt like a lifetime ago. Now, my phone stayed silent, and I'd never been more at peace. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment and let's connect. If this story resonated with you, please consider subscribing to the channel and sharing your thoughts. Your experiences and perspectives make these stories richer for everyone.